Welcome back. David, can you shut these stage lights down just a little bit? Just take them down a little bit more. Thank you. Hello. It's a phenomenon of light. If there's a lot of light on the stage, then you all are in darkness. Even though on the other side of the stage lights, you're all lit up just fine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Love or fear? I first thought about entitling this talk what Nathaniel's t-shirt was last Sunday, which was no fear. And I thought, gosh, I just love that idea, no fear. And then we're singing, I love myself the way I am, there's nothing I need to change. And I'm thinking, how do we balance those? How do we balance those two ideas of already being perfect, whole, and complete, and yet being able to harness that energy to be who we are meant to be? Because I love myself the way I am doesn't mean that we are a couch potato. Just because there's nothing that we need to change, that there's an inherent perfection within us, doesn't mean that we don't have some organizing of our skills to do on the outside of our day-to-day life. Doesn't mean that there's not some growing to do. But so many of us translate that to the idea that if I'm going to grow, if I'm going to change in terms of how I live my life and what choices I make and what I do, that must mean that there's something wrong with me. And so we have these two very differing ideas. One is the internal critic that says, Barbara, you really screwed that up. You know, you have to do that differently. And the other one is, I'm just perfect the way that I am, and so I don't have to really try in life. I can just skate because spirit is what I am. And maybe you've experienced both sides of those. And what I believe is that there is an ability for us to have that sense that whatever God is, I am, and I am pretty cool just the way that I am, and I don't want to do it that way anymore. I'm going to choose to do it differently. And I'm going to put a little effort in on my own behalf, not from a critical point, not from saying there's something wrong with me, but from, and take a deep breath, because I want you to get this. This is important. But from knowing that there is already an amazingly powerful spiritual being inside of me that I am that can handle this thing. That I am already together enough on a spiritual level that of course I can handle this experience in my life, and I don't have to put myself down or beat myself up to get there. I used to motivate myself that way. Maybe you did too. I used to motivate myself with the whip on Barbara, and I would freak myself out and think that all was lost, so that I would motivate myself enough to go ahead and do what I knew I needed to do. And I thought if I didn't do that, then I would just be a couch potato. I would just be a very passive person who let life happen to me. And I didn't realize that I could tap into that presence of the divine within me, where I already know what to do, where I already have the wisdom, the intelligence, the energy, the strength, the courage to do what I know needs to be done. And that I don't have to beat myself along the path so that I don't turn into this passive lump on a log, dumb Dora doormat, they used to call me in transactional analysis days. It's not either or like that. It's not either run myself to death or do nothing. And I don't know, am I the only one who has these two extremes? Wow. I remember just to clean my house, I used to have to get angry. And I would get angry, and I would put, this is dating me, I would put Donna Summer on. She works hard for her money. She's a hard-hearted honey, you know? And I would be mad at something, and then I would use that energy to clean my house. And I would clean, because I was angry, and I thought that's the only way I can do it, because if I don't generate some kind of upset, I've got nothing to work with. Do you know how exhausting it is to live that way? So the middle road, the balance, the Buddhist way, the middle road, the balance, is to know that we are already perfect, whole, and complete. and that we have within us everything that we need to do whatever it is we choose to do. That we already have the inner strength and the courage to go forward in life because we already know what's there for us. And that we will never be happy being a bump on a log and letting life pass us by. And we will never be happy beating ourselves and everyone else up to get where we need to go. That truthfully, there is that part of us that is already where we want to go. Because we cannot want to go there unless it already exists. Unless it exists at some level and it calls to us. John talked about all those wonderful ministers out there. Boy, this is a great year for graduating ministers and enlarging our movement. But they call it a calling because something calls you. Something calls you to be more than you ever thought you could be. Something calls you to step out in faith and to trust. Something calls you, and when you answer that call, you have done something. And I believe that there is that within us which already is where we want to go and is calling us. Jamie Lula sings a wonderful song, "Something's Calling Me a Little Bit Deeper Than I've Ever Been Before." And I think that we are constantly having that calling that says, I'm already here. Come on. I'm already happy. I'm already rich. I'm already healthy. I'm already successful. I'm already in my joy. Come on. And then we have this moment of love or fear. And I remember back in I think it was the 60s, that Gerald Jampolsky wrote, "Love is letting go of fear." Fear being false evidence appearing real. And when we have that idea of love or fear, it's not, oh, I'm just going to love everybody, no matter what my intuition is saying. Run, Barbara, run! I'm just going to love everybody so that I don't come across as if I'm dealing in fear. It's not that way at all. It is an inside job. So our choice is, do we love ourselves and trust that amazing being that we are, or do we indulge in some kind of a limiting story that is false evidence appearing real? Do we tell ourselves that we can't, that it's just too much, it's too big, and here's just little old me, and so I'm just gonna be a bump on a log? When we do that, and we couch it under the guise in metaphysics of I love myself just the way that I am, there's nothing I need to change, I don't have to do anything, I can just be a spiritual being and chant the Om. When we couch it in that languaging, it just sounds so appealing. Except our lives don't change. And Ernest said that for something to be known, it must demonstrate, and that this is not an airy-fairy teaching. You've got to be able to hold that demonstration in your hand. So if you're saying, I'm just going to chant the Om and be at one with all of life, when really we're using that as a smokescreen to cover up false evidence appearing real, which is to say to ourselves, I can't, I just don't have it within me to do it. I really want to do it because there's a part of me already there saying, come, 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 I'm calling you, and I really want to go, but I don't really want to have to do it, so I'm going to tell myself I can't, and then I'm going to couch it in being in the light and being in the love. And what I submit to you today is that that's a lie. That's just a flat-out lie. If anywhere in our experience of loving ourselves, we are telling ourselves no, that we are less than this experience, that we're not up to it, that we don't have what we need, we are God in form as us. We have everything that we need. We command the power of creation of all of life. John said he created you this day. I created the day. I created the heavens and the earth. That is the power within us. And so for us in any way, shape, or form to say we can't, we shouldn't, oh, this person, this experience is just too much for me, that's a lie. That's false evidence appearing real, and that's fear. And when we do that, we are not loving ourselves. Because loving ourselves really is about having the courage to stand up and say, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I haven't got a clue, but I know there's a part of me that does. I know there's a part of me that just by my very desiring of it, already has within me whatever it is I need to go and have the life I want to have, that it's already here. And so I'm going to stand up and I'm going to take a step forward and I'm going to go for it even though I don't have a clue how. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take a step forward. That's the truth. And when we do that in life, stuff happens. When we do that in life, we find that we have within us already all of the love, all of the support, all of what we need to have our lives be the way that we want them to be. This is not a teaching for sissies. This is not a teaching for scaredy cats. This is a teaching that asks you to move into the unknown, to step forward, to step up, to step out, to move into having the life that you know you should be living, a life of health and prosperity and love and joy, of success of all kinds, of moving into this awareness of the presence of the divine in you and all around you. This is a teaching that asks you to step up. And if you're not willing to step up, you're lying to yourself. And what really just is my button, nobody pushes it, I installed it, you can push it, but I installed it, is when we cover up that fear by pretending to be holy. Holiness is not passive, holiness is whole. And if we're passive because we think we can't, we shouldn't, we might be embarrassed, we might fail, that's not whole, that's not perfect, whole, and complete. That's imperfect, that's not whole, that's missing whatever we think we might need to be able to move into that new state of being. That's a lie. And so we move back to love, to loving ourselves, not to say, oh, sweet child, you don't have to do anything, you just go ahead and go to bed early. You were here last week, you heard me talk about that. Watch out for the grandmother that says, oh, you look a little pale, maybe you shouldn't go to school today, run. And so when you have that going on inside of you, and it says, oh, that's a really big jump. That's leaving your safe, secure job that you can't stand and going into the business that you've always wanted to go into, but you don't have any capital. You don't know how it's going to work. You don't know whether or not you're going to make it. So just don't even try. Just forget about it. Dig a hole and climb in. Ask the passerbys to cover you up because you're already dead. Here we are, these amazing beings, powerful beings, each one of us with a divine destiny, calling us to be these amazing world changers, to live a life of absolute joy and bliss. And we think that we don't have what it takes to go into business for ourselves, to buy a new car, to get the house that we want, to trust once again, to love someone. We think we don't have what it takes to be able to live in this physical form filled with energy and vitality and health and getting younger and younger every day. We think we don't have enough, we think we don't have what it takes. That's the lie, that's the fear. And fear will kill you. Fear will absolutely kill you. I don't want to live if I'm going to be afraid. I've been afraid. Fear sucks. It does. It's much better to stand up and fall flat on your face than it is to never stand up at all. I was talking to my dog trainer. Any of you who've been around Bliss know what wonderful training she's received and how sweet she is, except for this morning with John Elton. She jumped. But I have a personal dog trainer that comes out here, and we put my dog in certain scenarios that she used to maul people, steal their purses, scratch their cars, those kinds of things. Those of you who've been around during the week, you know that. And I was talking to him, and we were talking about children because he's got a 5-month-old, and we were talking about the baby learning how to crawl, and then this whole idea of children walking. And I re-encountered my experience with my son learning how to walk. My son walked at 9 months. He didn't have any interest in crawling. He wanted to get where he wanted to go, and he wanted to do it upright. But in order for him to learn how to walk, he had to learn how to balance. And if you don't know, I'll explain to you that walking is a controlled fall. That every time you walk, it's a controlled fall. And if you're not willing to risk the fall, you'll never walk. You'll never go anywhere. And so when my son was 9 months old, pulling himself up on coffee tables and trying to balance and trying to take that first step, he consistently would just fall flat on his face. And my husband at the time would actually touch me and pull me back to let the child try to figure it out on his own. And it only took him a couple of days of falling flat on his face for him to learn how to walk. And then he got it. He got how to catch himself. And then he'd wobble and get his balance again. And before we knew it, he was running all around. But he would never have learned to walk if he wasn't willing to risk the fall. And I had to let him fall. So how does that work for you? Do you stop yourself from falling? That the risk of falling is too great? The risk of failure is too great? You never failed at anything. You just got another opportunity to try. Nothing was ever an accident. It was a surprise. You never lost anything. You only got another chance to get something new. You're an amazing being. You're a God in form as you. Anytime you tell yourself less than that, you are lying. And the way that it feels is fear. So if you don't really know what you're doing, all you have to do is check out your feelings. Every time you feel fear, you're lying to yourself. I am afraid that something can be taken from me. I'm afraid that I won't have my needs met. I'm afraid that I can be hurt. I'm afraid that there really isn't greatness in me. Those are lies. You are an amazing being of light and love and power and joy. And the only job you have is to remember that and to love yourself through whatever steps, whatever stumbles, whatever falls you might have, because it won't take long at all for you to be back up on your feet and running around like crazy. And so it is.